I've done quite a few videos on just the weird stories, especially with the missing 411 thing that I'm interested in, the missing hikers, or stuff that I've read about, things of that nature. Probably not a secret at this point that I like talking about that kind of stuff, but there's one story that I definitely left out, and I think it's worth talking about. That's my story. This isn't gonna have like a Hollywood, story to it. It's just what I experienced, what I remember experiencing. I was very young at the time, so the memory, who knows how reliable it is, even to myself. When we recall memories from when we were young, it's weird how we recall them. We don't recall them in specific sequences, and what the memory comes from a time when we didn't understand things that we now understand as adults. So keep that in mind, right? Now, I'm also not one of those people that this kind of stuff, happens to a lot. I don't have a lot of stories myself. Most of what I've experienced, you guys have seen on video. This one obviously was not on video because I was in single digit ages. I don't remember exactly how old I was. Old enough to, speak, and old enough to be sleeping in my own room. I want to say I was maybe 7 or 8, something like that. I was born and raised in Tennessee, Stewart County. If you've ever looked at a map or a picture of Tennessee, the hump at the top of the state that you see on the map, that hump is Stewart County. The county seat is Dover, Tennessee. The town that I was raised in is Carlisle, Tennessee. I was born in Aaron, Tennessee. That's Houston County. It's the next county over, bordering Stewart County. It was just the closest hospital. Stewart County didn't have a hospital at the time. Aaron, Tennessee was another town. It was about the same size as Dover, not that far away. Carlisle sat kind of in between Dover and Aaron, probably a little bit closer to Dover. But Carlisle was definitely in Stewart County. Now, the property that I was raised on was bought by my parents before I can even remember. They did build a house there. In 1992, that burned down, and so then they had to put another house on the very same spot, and that house is still standing today. My dad lives there. He literally lives in the same house I was raised in. So you know how they say people can't go home again? I actually can, and have several times to visit. Now this house, the second house, the house that I really remember, my brother and I, Jacob, shared a room. He was my younger brother. Now this room was at the back of the house, was long ways, and then we had the backyard behind it. Okay, let me pull it up on Google Earth for you, actually. Okay, so we're going to Carlisle. I was looking at Ukraine. I'll let you know. So there's Carlisle, this little, very, very small town. That was a big church. I remember that. This was the big intersection in Carlisle. My grandparents, this is the road to Aaron, Tennessee. My grandparents did actually live here. Looks very different now. Now the road to where I was raised, right there. So you go up this road, can't remember the name of it, and right there, this road is Eagle Loop. So it's a gravel road, still gravel, very much so. This was an old rock quarry we played in as kids. We called it the gravel pit, which is what we called it. And there is the house I was raised in. Dad's done quite a bit of work to it, obviously. It did have a well, so that's the well house right there. That's Dad's camper. He's got a carport he put in. That looks like some kind of chicken coop, some raised beds. None of that stuff was there. There used to be an old shed here, but it looks like that's gone. But that used to be right there. Anyway, that looks like some kind of garden that he's put in. And he put the deck on. The deck was a later addition that wasn't there when I was a kid, along with this. So my room was right here, okay? And there was a window that looked out that way. Towards the backyard. It's one of those big double pane windows. And this was the backyard, and then past that, as you can see, is not much. There was a company, and probably still is a company, named Westvaco. This was all Westvaco land behind us, and there was not much else, as you can see. Really not much else. So there's my house, and then nothing but woods. My room was right there, looked out over the backyard. Now, like I said, it is strange when you recall memories from this young. I did remember that sometimes I have these memories of nighttime. And where my bed was at was right next to that window, right underneath of it, long ways underneath the window, okay? So, and we had blinds on it. We shut the blinds, we turned them down, you know, the regular plastic blinds. For some reason, I have these memories as a kid of a bright street light in the backyard that would come on. Now, as you can see, you can kind of see there's no street light, okay? There never was a street light out there. I don't even think there is one now. And if there was, it would not be in the backyard, it'd be in the front. Dad didn't put any lights in out back that I know of. I don't remember ever seeing lights out there. It was a very bright street light. And I only remember really seeing it 2 or 3 times, as far as I can recall. But I do remember the intensity and the color. The color was blue-white. You know the type of light, like almost like a blue-white LED light, right? I remember that when it was on, it was so bright, and it was shining directly into my window, like it was mounted to shine into my window. So this light, it would wake me up, okay, and it would keep me up. And even with the blinds drawn, I remember I have memories of it shining directly through the blinds, because the blinds would be turned down and it would just shoot straight through them. Very bright. And I don't know why I connect that with this story, other than to say that it's strange now when I look back on it. It wasn't strange at the time, because when I was a kid, so I figured, okay, well, there's a street light out there and it only comes on sometimes, very rarely. Maybe Dad forgot to turn it off. Maybe, it's there for a purpose that I don't know. Because as kids, we were raised tough, and we were raised, not to really question adults, especially our parents, too much, because they had a plan. Okay, they were always in control, and it's not like we couldn't ask why, but sometimes it was just better not to. Like we didn't need to know everything, and if there was something we needed to know, they'd tell us. And if we asked a question, they would answer it. If it was something we didn't need to know, they wouldn't just tell us, don't worry about it. They would just answer vaguely, and we kind of got the idea. I remember thinking that this was one of those things that I guess I didn't really need to know about, but sometimes there was just a bright street light outside. And I don't know why I still to this day associate that light that should not have been there with this incident. Now, I want to say that this happened on a Saturday morning because of just the flow of things. We always got up early as kids. We had to go, there were things that had to be done, whether it be school, chores, church, stuff like that. We always got up early on weekdays. Saturdays, sometimes we could sleep in. And Sundays, no, we had to go to church. So I'm thinking this had to have been a Saturday. Now, I remember specifically, I woke up lying in bed. So the living room was right here, right in the middle of the house. It kind of stretched all the way through back to this little patio back here. I remembered specifically hearing my dad in the living room, and I assumed it was him. He was watching the news, and that's another reason I think it was Dad, because Dad watched the news sometimes, or got up to watch TV. Usually it would be the morning news. We didn't have cable, by the way. It was an antenna, legit antenna. So I remember hearing the news and like clinking of a bowl or some kind of silverware. So I kind of figured Dad was sitting in there watching the news. I feel, well, that's normal. I'm thinking to myself, that's normal. Normal sounds in the morning. And then I realize I'm lying on my back and I can't move. I remember being really confused about it, but then also feeling better that I could still hear Dad. Okay, so it's not in the middle of the night. It wasn't dark. It was light outside. And morning sun was, it was already up, so the room was not dark. But I could not move, and I was lying on my back. And then I realized I was having a sensation of being shocked. As in, I can't move because my entire body is vibrating and I have no control over my muscles. Being tasered, but not painful way, okay? Like, you're immobilized. But the way a taser, I've been tasered, obviously, for, work. I've had to do that to carry one. It's not like that because with taser, there's a lot of, there's pain, it's very intense. This was more subtle, like I did not realize it until after I realized I couldn't move. That my body was doing this weird vibrating thing, and I guess that's what my mind associated with interfering with my ability to move. That scared me, okay? That was a scary realization, that because not only can I not move, but something is being done to me that is causing me not to move. So that means somebody is responsible for doing this to me. And whoever or whatever is doing it to me is at the foot of my bed. I knew that if I looked down at the foot of my bed, if I really strained and I could have, I felt like I could have looked. And I did not, because I knew if I looked down at the foot of my bed, there's going to be something there that I don't want to see. It's going to be terrible, it's going to be horrifying, and it's going to be something I can never unsee. I will always have seen it. These are the thoughts. I remember having these thoughts, like if I see that, I can never not see it. I don't want to have that mental image of that as a reality. It's fine on TV, it's fine in scary movies, but standing there looking at me is not where I want to see that. So I didn't look. I remember looking over out of the periphery of my vision. I could see my brother's bed. His covers were messed up, so that meant he was in bed too, because we always, made our beds when we got up. We were made to. So he was there. Dad's in the living room. Everybody's here. I'm not alone. However, this is still happening. The main thing I'm worried about, like what's being done to me is one thing, but I'm still worried that whatever's at the foot of my bed that I somehow know is there, I don't want it to move. I don't want it to come up beside me. I don't want to see it. I don't want to interact with it. I want it to stay where it is in the worst case scenario. Best case scenario, it leaves. This stops and it's over. I don't know how long this lasted, but it was enough time to have all of these thoughts. And then the next conscious memory I have is just getting out of bed. And the morning is normal. I go in there. I remember, I don't remember anything else remarkable about that morning. Things were normal, Dad. Everybody was where I thought they were, where they should have been. I have no other extraordinary memories of that morning. I don't remember the transition from when this stopped to me getting out of bed. I guess it was so extraordinary and so unusual. Like, how could this have happened one time? It'll never happen again. There's no way this could have happened one time. One time was such a rarity that I never have to worry about this again, I guess, was my train of thought. Because I didn't say anything to anyone. I don't remember saying anything to anyone about it. I remember it's over, it's done, moving forward. And then we just proceeded with the day. Never saw the streetlight again. I don't have any memories of it after that. And this wasn't something I thought about at the time. I remember years later, I remember thinking, when I went back to the house for the first time after being away, I remember walking through the backyard and looking for the pole that the light would have been on, or wherever it would have been. And there of course wasn't a pole. There wasn't a electrical drop for any light like that. And I guess I just kind of associated the two. I don't know why I did. I don't know why I still do associate the two. I don't know. This is just what happened to me and what I witnessed. Now fast forward many, many, many years later, as in maybe 2 or 3 years ago, a documentary comes out on Netflix called The Nightmare. And it's about sleep paralysis. I watched that, and they talked about a lot of the same things that happened to me. And I've never had this since. Okay, this didn't happen anymore. But the feeling of being shocked, of not being able to move, of strange entities in the room. Usually, though, people would see the entity, but they did talk about feeling that it was there, knowing it was there, too. Which is what I felt. So, I guess the closest explanation to this that I've come up with, especially since watching that documentary, was that I experienced sleep paralysis. I don't know why it was a one-time thing. I guess just got unlucky, maybe. But it was very intense, and I still remember it to this day. And it's not something that I would ever care to repeat, but I'm fairly certain that's what it was. Now, as far as the light in the backyard, I don't know. I have no idea. There was no light. There never should have been a light. Maybe I dreamt it up. I don't think I did. It's just not. It was consistently in the same place, consistently bright on multiple nights, and I have multiple memories of it. And then for it to stop after this encounter happens, I don't know. There's coincidence, and then there's cause and effect, right? You gotta weigh out the two, especially with a lack of information, and like this, and evidence. But that was one of the most frightening things that have ever happened to me, because I had no control. Something else was in control, and I didn't want to meet it. Still would not want to meet it to this day. I don't know what it was going to look like. I just know that it was something that I didn't want to see. So I chose not to have that memory. I chose not to look. So, strange story. I have never had sleep paralysis after that, if that's what it was. It was a one-time deal, and no more lights shining through windows either. This all happened, it was over with, and then it was done. So this is what happened to me. Not a horribly intense story, but still, it's what I experienced, and it stuck with me. Still does. I don't know how the memories have changed over time, if they have, but that's the best I can remember it, as well as my line of reasoning. So, with all the stories I've told and I am yet to tell, I figured I should probably tell mine. Sleep paralysis sucks. If that's what it was, it sucks. And I highly recommend you watch that documentary if you haven't watched it. It's actually really good. It's called The Nightmare. Hey, do me a favor and like, thumbs up, blah blah blah, subscribe, blah 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 to the channel. You know, please. Makes me uncomfortable to ask. I hate asking. I know you guys laugh at me because it is funny. I'm totally not comfortable with asking. But you know, please like and subscribe. You get it.